Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Greetings, everybody, and Happy New Year. This Aquarius New Moon, it actually begins always the Lunar New Year. You know, there are different systems of calendars. We have our sun, as we're well aware of, and then the moon. And there are calendars that do both, and the Chinese is one of them. However, this is not, of course, necessarily a show about Chinese astrology, but we're all one world. As we're increasingly becoming, the stars are telling us that, you might say, we must say, because of the cycles that we're entering. And Aquarius is about the collective consciousness. The North Node itself has gone into Pisces, which is a collective unconsciousness, as I learned, one denotation. And the beautiful part about the lunar moon calendar is just that the moon is our closest ally, you could say, in the sky, and there's still many systems of using it. And besides that, a large portion of the entire globe looks to it. So there you go. But at any rate, this is about the Aquarius new moon. It's the second new moon after the solstice that initiates that lunar, Asian new, or Chinese, if you must, Lunar New Year. Enough of that. Let's get right to our part, which is archetypal symbols about the new moon. Thank you.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crockett-Elsie, an archetypal Jyotish astrologer, yoga and meditation teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electional, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Hello, Liz. Hello, Justin. Good to see you both so much.
Nice to be here, ladies. Nice to see both of you.
Hi, Sue and Justin. It's great to be back.
Yes, so we're beginning another new year. We may have skipped our December 1 because we have that wonderful year forecast, which you can still go back. It's very relevant. But let's get into what this begins with. Elizabeth Liz Muschett is at alightpath.com. And Justin Crockett-Elsie is at his namesake.com or justin.elsie at gmail, and I'm at Talk Cosmos. And of course, there's other ways. We all have YouTubes that you can definitely, that are active to use. 9 has been, as it always is, for about half a year. The sun and the moon stays at a degree. 9 is the number, and there's different connotations. Everything has its viewpoint. And I will also add, before I let go here for open conversation, just that besides the sun and the moon at 9 degrees, Aquarius, this isn't Pisces or whatever else it will be, but Neptune adds up 2 and 7, 27 degrees, and Hygeia, the asteroid goddess of health and purification.
And 2025 is a universal number of 9, so that's another 9 too. So we're going to be using that 9 all year. 9 is a completion. It's the end of a cycle, completing 9 years. It's engaging in life and completing goals, and it's very compassionate.
Yeah,
Yep. I would agree. Yep. There's not really much more to say. It is really about a completion of a cycle. And again, it's really about completing goals and coming to the end of the cycle. And as you pointed out, Liz pointed out, it's a 9-year globally for all of us this year. But we also have each a personal year. And Liz is really good at helping people figure what that is out. So.
Absolutely. And with the added extra feature, you could say that with this new moon seed that we're all recognizing, and we hope that our illustration through these different metaphysical terms will help you figure out how to interpret that invocation or meaningfulness for yourself. It's aligned with Neptune as it just finishes its last few degrees, and with Hygeia, a visionary. And so it's a matter of purification, perhaps, and healing what has toxicity in your life. So there's another level, we could say, as we go along that path. Aquarius consciousness is an air sign. It's communicative in that sense. It's fixed, though it has its opinions. It can be on a little bit resistant to changing the opinions that one has, or ideas, or perhaps rebellious without a cause. But on the really beautiful part of it, it's networking with community, bringing it up to a higher elevation for the collective. And very ingenious, really.
Very forward thinking.
Yeah, progressive. Can be progressive.
Yep.
Definitely.
Innovative.
Idealistic. Definitely. And the shadow, we didn't cover the shadow portion of that. And the shadow of it is where there can be emotional detachment or separating self from a group. It is it can sometimes be the observer in a group. So
absolutely, because one does naturally raise up a little bit to see it in perspective, but in doing that, how do you relate? So it really is important. The polarity point would be Leo, so it's bringing in that heart.
It's an individualistic sign, yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And we're in it. We have Pluto in it, and now the moon, and they're conjunct. Well, we'll see that as we do the charts.
And the major arcana card for Aquarius is the 17th trump card, the star. And the star is like bridging the spiritual and the mundane world. And the deck that she has a picture here of is the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot deck. And the shadow is unbalanced between the material and intuitive.
I really liked what you brought up, reminding me, as people can look at this card, for those that are looking at the YouTube, that there's 2 hands with 2 jugs. One is being poured the water, representing the spiritual, emotional part of our nature, and the other going mundane, actually pouring that into the land. So it's
sharing the knowledge and the wisdom.
And bridging. It's just beautiful when you think of Uranus out there anyway. Okay, but it is achieving those heart's desires with it, wouldn't you? I would imagine that does bring in a little of the polarity. While I'm scanning on, let's go to what is another offshoot, perhaps, of what we've done for a year, because a minor arcana for tarot does relate to the cards astrologically.
Astrology, right? Yes.
Yes, but it's in a different system. It's a very ancient system, the Chaldean system, which has, according to the speed of the planets, which is not exactly what we always think of. We think of the traditional, which really goes along with the elements and that rulership, which would be air right now. It'd be going from Aquarius to Gemini to Libra with those planets. So this is tarot. Okay, go ahead, Liz.
Well, the Chaldean order came from the Egyptians, and there's the decans are divided into 10 equal parts, or 10 degree, 3 equal parts. So the first decan one is up to 9 degrees and 59 minutes. And that's Aquarius. And so the ruler would be Venus in the Chaldean order. And we have Pluto, Mercury, and the Sun and Moon all within that first decan. And then the second decan is ruled by Mercury, and the third one is ruled by the Moon in the Chaldean order.
Yeah, and Justin, too, you'll have comments, but looking just at the Sun and Moon, because for people looking at your own charts, you might associate this if you have early, divided into the 10 degrees, getting an extra layer. But Venus is very active in this chart coming up, as we will see. And it really does have a lot to do about our values and our partnerships and our financial security. It rules both signs. So I would think that as we finish this whole 9-year completion, that's a strong impetus to how we're thinking about things.
Yeah, and I might put much. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Liz.
The traditional would be ruled by Uranus, so the change maker.
Exactly.
I think that's what Justin was going to say, too. You're in alignment.
In the traditional, we look at this as Uranus. And one of the ways that I like to look at the decans and the terms here is really they color, if you have a planet in that first 9 to 10 degrees, it colors it. So let's say you have, the moon there in those degrees, which we're looking at tonight. It has a Venetian or even a Uranus flavor to it. So it's kind of like a Aquarius moon with Venus in Aquarius or Uranus in Aquarius acting.
It's very interesting because I was just suddenly relating to my own chart. I have Jupiter at 1 degree Aquarius. Of course, Pluto is having a grand old time with it. And it happens to be in an inconjunct or quincunx, as it is, with Venus. So there is a lot. It adds to the description and the personal expression. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for introducing these. And this is minor arcana cards and tarot and astrology in that relationship.
And so then we come to the lunar mansions. And so basically these are the stars in the constellation of the zodiac sign that the moon travels through, and involves the mythologies around those fixed stars there. And each nakshatra has 4 sections called padas, and they relate to one of the elements. So next slide here.
Yes, pardon me.
Yeah. So for this particular new moon, the nakshatra, and of course we say in Sanskrit the moon is called Chandra. The nakshatra is Shravana in the second pada, and this is the star of the listening ear or learning ear. So if anybody ever has any planets in these first degrees of Aquarius, they have this skill set of listening to others. It's actually a skill set of listening, and they will tend to be more into fields that are counseling or helping people find their path. That could be as simple as working at an information booth at the airport to actually being a therapist. But so it's called the star of the learning ear. The ruling planet for this nakshatra is the moon. Ruling deity is Vishnu, which out of the Hindu godhead, out of the three Hindu godhead, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, he is the preserver. And the symbol, of course, is an arrow or an ear. And the basis above is seeking. And the basis below is path. It's always trying to seek the right path or direction to go. And so the keyword theme here for this particular pada specifically, which is ruled by Taurus, the second one is always Earth, is diplomacy. So people born in with it, let's say they have like their sun or moon in this one, will be diplomatic. And they're listening to others and help others seek paths. And they have this Shakti power of being able to connect with others. So if we think about this as we go through the show tonight, we will see how this will relate again to the Sabian symbols, and you got to kind of go back to this and remember this, because this colors this moon.
Oh, it's just beautiful. It makes me realize, I think, with the phrase that if you know how to listen, everybody's a guru. It's one of those taglines that I have for Talk Cosmos that came from, and it's very much of this. And I'm thinking my own chart and how that may have responded. But how perfect. Well, we certainly need this in the world right now, listening to each other and figuring out how to mediate. Yes.
So if anybody wants to work with this moon, this Aquarian new moon, a good thing to do is if we do rituals around our new moons, which some of us do, it's good to do mantras towards Shiva. Towards Vishnu.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Vishnu.
Vishnu.
And kind of looking at what path you want to go to for this coming year or for the next month or year, or whatever that is. So mantras for Vishnu are related to here.
Okay. The preserver. So there's constancy with that. That's a useful thing. Reviewing the mythology, there are actually two that stand out for Aquarius. One is very, very, very ancient, and it really responds to what people have adapted to being part of the biblical story, but it's about a flood for the simple reasons of purifying and to reestablish. And interestingly, in that story, there was also one couple, and it took a little moment for them to understand, but the instruction was to take stones and throw them, as it was, which became people. For the man, it was men, and for women, it was women. So it was a new population. And you can look, I've thought that really serves deeply into thinking about very much of stones and in general, but we only have a certain amount of time here. And besides that, Hermes, made borders with stones going up. The other part is Ganymede. Ganymede was a human. Zeus, as the god of all, came down and abducted Ganymede, being the most beautiful male mortal, from Troy to be the wine bearer or the cup bearer, whether it was wine or whether it was water, whether it was the spirit, the ambrosia to the gods. And you could look at that really as a spiritual essence of what one is. It had been a daughter that he had with his wife, Juno, but she was going to get married to Hercules. And in my mind, I'm thinking, isn't this fascinating that we take a mortal and bring it to divinity, and then we take a divine and we bring it down to mortal terms, because Hercules was a demigod with both mortal and immortal parentage. But the fact is that what does it mean for us? Aquarius looks binary more. Sometimes it's depicted as a female, sometimes as a male. And it also, in modern terms, has therefore had the association with homosexuality, because what is common to all people, it is the collective humanity that we're looking at. But really, in this sense, we can also just think of it really as with everything else, but that this mythology is trying to purify what really will be left to renew so that we can integrate what is the mundane with the spiritual, which in all of astrology begins to connect, because Taurus, for instance, going back to the last second pada that Justin brought up, is Taurus is form with spirit coming into it. So it keeps going around and around. But more than that, the numerology is also with Hygeia and Neptune about purity and vision, and the Tarot bridging the spiritual and the mundane. It's fascinating to see how all these metaphysical groups begin to support it. And of course, Shavana, which Justin brought up, has the diplomacy and listening and connections, which, if we're going to be talking about the collective in any terms, is vital.
I want to point out one thing really quickly before you switch a slide here. I want to point out, the mythological story there, Ganymede, which is the spiritual cupbearer for the gods. He was a mortal, working for the gods, the material and the spiritual here, that it's representing humanity's connection from the earth up to the spiritual, right? And that is exactly, as Liz was talking about, is what the star, one of the meanings for the star tarot card, which is this connection between the material world and the spiritual world here.
Beautiful. Absolutely. That is the truth. Yep. It all relates. And as we go, we associate more meaningfulness to it and how it works with our consciousness. But that essentially, thank you. The constellation is best seen in a dark evening, and the best viewing is in the southern sky. Would be in the fall, in October, about 10 p.m. So it's, this is earthsky.org. You can find this yourself. And November, as we go down, the sun is lowering, so it's going to be down about 8 p.m. You will see it. Sabian symbols. Liz?
Well, we're going to talk about 4 of them: the past, the present, the Sabian for now, and the future. And the Sabians were channeled in 1925 by spiritualist medium Elsie Wheeler with the assistance of Mark Edmund Jones.
Yep, indeed. And here's the chart for Washington, D.C., January 29th at 7:35 a.m. with 44 seconds. And as you can see, it has a 14-degree ascendant, where the sun and the moon are in the 12th house, and the MC at the midheaven is in Sagittarius. It's not always the same sign. It's going to be 2 degrees Sag. And so you have the 3. And of course, it rounds up to be in the next degree, although that's debatable. Some say the same degree and some say round it up. We're using 4 to cover our territory because it gives a good solid representation. The ascendant, beginning with that, to look at this chart, and this is for the United States, you could say it's bridging what's happening now. It's 14 degrees, so we're going to look at 13 to 16 degrees. So the very past, where this is coming into just prior, is a barometer. And it's that ability to discover the natural, what's basic facts, allowing us to plan further for action. Anticipation. Liz?
And the present is Aquarius 14, the Great Pyramid, and the Sphinx. The keynote is enduring power of occult knowledge and of its quasi-divine custodians, seed men, or a previous cycle of existence. And the keyword is the power of spiritual ancestry.
And what we're moving towards here is the Aquarius 15, the groundhog, looking for its shadow on Groundhog Day. We all kind of know what the meaning of that is. The keynote here is the value of anticipating new turns of events and ascertaining future, prospects and events. Keyword is basically prospective.
It's interesting how it starts with anticipation and it goes on to prospective, which is again that anticipation from maybe some growth with the spiritual ancestry. And then going beyond that, it would be the seagulls for 16 Aquarius fly around a ship, again in expectation of food. So there it is, that this dependence of stimulation of social circumstances, of some dependence.
And I might point out, just for people that maybe have been watching this show, that you may find some similarities between Sabians in one sign and another sign. And there is one very similar to this dependence upon others, and in Sagittarius. And so I just kind of point that out, because this is very almost a mirroring of another Sabian symbol.
Interesting. It would see how it starts in the story and what angle, just like 9, as we were saying, has many connotations. So thank you for bringing that up. Well, here we are in Sagittarius, but this is for the MC, although we're not doing those degrees because it's very much earlier. It's a 2-degree Sagittarius MC, so we're going from 1 to 4. And the past is retired Army veterans gather to reawaken old memories, the will to affirm the value of the struggle, which civilization and group achievements are founded, perpetuation. Liz?
And then Sagittarius 2 is white-capped waves display the power of wind over sea, the mobilization of unconscious energies under the presence of superpersonal motives, subtilization through rhythmic intensity.
You get the hard words. Sorry. It's really true. Well, those white-capped waves have got to be doing something. But it has to do with wind, too, right? I mean, sitting out here in the ocean definitely changes our dynamics.
So the next one, Sagittarius 3, is 2 men playing chess. And the keynote here is the transcendent ritualization of conflict, and the keyword is interplay. And I might point out here that we see an undercurrent of relationship between the first set of Sabian symbols and this one, dependence, and now there's interplay. And this is a little bit like sometimes when this shows up in a chart, like a person needs to push the other one's buttons. It's a little competitive. 2 men playing
Oh,
chess.
of course. Yes, they're not exactly on the same team, are they? They're trying to outwit each other. Good point. Well, whereas really all heading, you might say, is with 4, a little child learning to walk with the encouragement of his parents. It's that natural assistance of superior powers as you're going through the crisis of growth and resolution of conflict. And we are about to
So I might point out there was conflict and interplay with competitiveness, and now we move on to resolution of conflict. So this is a progression here that's asking us to learn with the midheaven here.
Yeah, very good. And for those that may have missed it, Justin did a wonderful talk with OPA, that's Organizational Professional Astrology, last month I think it was December. Yes, about the 8th. So catch that. Okay, here we're going to, shall we take a break and do this when we get back?
Let's finish it, the Sabians.
Okay, we'll finish it. 9 degrees, sun and moon. And so this is for everybody around the globe, in your chart, wherever. 8, going up to it, is a beautifully gowned wax figure on display. The inspiration one may derive from the appearance of exemplars who present to us the archetypes of a new culture, performation. That's a lot of words.
And then Aquarius 9, a flag is seen turning into an eagle, the dynamic incorporation of new social values in individuals who exemplify the spiritual potential and greatness significance of these values, acting out of the vision.
And of course, I'm thinking we're talking about avatars here. And so we move into now that avatar is A man who had for a time become the embodiment of a popular ideal is made to realize that as a person, he's not the ideal anymore. And so there's the need as we move on to always self-reevaluate. And so there's a self-evaluation, and this just means we continually grow. And so what we may have been known and we were ideal yesterday, well, tomorrow we've got to self-evaluate and grow.
Isn't that amazing? And very interestingly, if we were to go a little bit further, as this always progresses from the beginning, it's during a silent hour. How internal is that? A man receives a new inspiration, may change his life. It's relying on that inner inspiration and guidance to start a new development. So there is hope. If you're not quite the ideal, what more can there be? And it's overshadowing for this transient power that hopefully will guide you along. How about if you, because we're short on time, Justin, you want to start, and then Liz, you can add in what you think.
Yeah, I think this just overall is talking about a growth period here. And I think this is a good moon for all of us to self-evaluate how we can improve with this new moon, self-evaluation. And of course, there needs to be a little bit of quiet time there with this. And that's what I would summarize. What would you say, Liz?
I agree with that. And if you do, whether you do a ritual or write some things down that you want to bring into your life, don't be attached to the how, just write down what you want, because I think it's going to really put it out, to the universe or whatever you want to call it, and it'll come back.
And that's beautiful. That's so true. And just looking at a couple of these ideas, remembering that there's resolution of conflict, that there's always this anticipation and you really brought it up first, Justin, but that it's a process of being
growth.
Growth. Thank you. I hope I didn't muddy that up. Thank you. We are going to be right back. We took a little wee time, but that's okay. And stay with us. This is Archetypal Symbols with Elizabeth Liz Muschett and Justin Crockett Elsie and myself, Sue Minahan. Thank you. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Aquarius, ruled modernly by Uranus and Saturn in traditional astrology by the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on governing structures through both man-made and universal laws, Aquarius breaks established pattern, permitting the energy of freedom, just as its ruling planet Uranus spins on its side and orbits backwards. As a fixed air sign represented by the water bearer pouring the spirit of cosmic energy, Aquarius seeks to find like-minded, intuitively aligned souls to connect in social groups for the elevation and improvement of all.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Linda Rasmussen at verticalenergyworldwide.com. We cover the world of animals. This week, February 2nd, it's Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our Animal Friends Sunday. We'll check in with Meow Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, and Animals 24/7. Plus, we'll hear about all the great classes and events coming up at the Ananda Institute for Living Yoga. Hope you can join us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Broaden your horizons. You'll be amazed at all the topics we cover on Alternative Talk 1150.
And here we go. Again, it's Elizabeth Liz Muschett and Justin Crockett Elsie and myself. Liz has a wonderful YouTube channel. Perhaps you want to briefly tell us about this.
Well, there's a lot going on. There's 2025 astrological highlights with many astrologers. Coming new on the show is Astrological Magic with Robert, and Justin and I do the monthly astrology forecast and the full moon forecast. And then I have the series, The Astrology Star Sisters, and we do the dwarf planets, planet stationing, the decans using astrology and tarot, fixed stars, Uranian astrology, and new Chinese astrology.
Oh boy. And we're going to do one on dwarf planets coming up pretty shortly. So this is very much fun. Thank you. And Justin, let's hear about yours.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel, which I just encourage people to check out. And so I have all my videos on YouTube from Talk Cosmos with Sue and Liz. And then, of course, my series with Liz is on there. And then, of course, I have a series with Michael Bartlett, a relationship guy series. And then, of course, some of my own series. So just you can find me on YouTube at Astrological Yogi, at Astrological Yogi, or you can even find me on Blue Sky at Astrological Yogi.
Oh, good. So it's just one great, super. And you do consultants via Zoom, yep, which I know you and Liz, and I do, but I'm going to get a new website here coming up pretty soon for that. So Talk Cosmos has last year, right in December, 3 wonderful year presentations that really differ tremendously. So check them out. One with archetypal symbols about the whole year, the vibrational messages for the whole season, which is very fascinating. And then AstroJam did its unique description of the Aries point and the Libra point to add a real flavor to what the year is going to be. And of course, the nodes came in. Planet Buzz did a great job with that. And we also are continuing with U.S. global events, which had to do with the world as we see it. Thank you.
That was a great show we did.
It was.
Check it out.
I know. It's very gratifying. So subscribe and like. And I myself am going to be moving more to YouTube. Life's changing and we'll go with the program, right? So let's see what we have. Out of bounds. Briefly speaking, it's when a planet goes outside the ecliptic, which is as far as the sun can go. And it's doing its own archetype at that point. And it can be more extreme. It's whatever its archetypal nature happens to be. And the moon is fluctuating for about 8-10 years here because it goes for that period. And it will be from January 24th to the 29th. So it'll be more emotional. And Mars is really working with us. It's retrograde, which it has been for this month and will continue into February. And it's out of bounds for the entire month until April 7th. The other factor with Mars is that it is in opposition to Pluto in orb. There have been 3 exact times, and the one coming up that's pertaining to us will be next month, February 23rd, between the 6th of December and the 23rd. So we're really struggling. I don't know if struggle, but we're transforming the steps, the directions, how we're moving forward. And in some ways, it's a little bit crunchy.
Well, and with Mars retrograde, sometimes it's hard to get your projects off the ground. So when Mars goes direct next month, you should have a lot more ease at getting your projects off the ground.
It's a good time. Exactly. It's a great time for strategizing and planning direction and reevaluating direction, because that's what Mars represents. And of course, on February 23rd, it goes direct.
Oh, I am empowered. Thank you very much. Onward. This part of our program, of course, looks at the new moon itself. It's a seed point, such as Liz was mentioning with her invocations. Feel, write, describe, dance, however you wish to illustrate them with your desires without looking at the form. But let's see what it's saying. The highlight would be Venus right now, one of them. It is that ruler of the first Aquarius decan. as far as the tarot goes, although we also recognize that Uranus is. But here, look at this. It is in conjunction with Saturn. But interestingly, Mars is at the midpoint between that conjunction. I think that's what's so fascinating. So that, 21 degrees is right between 17 and 25. So Mars is really toggling between our values, how to make them more universal, and our desires.
Yeah, and Mars is in a trine to that Saturn and Venus, but at the midpoint. So it's really bridging that Saturn and Venus even more tightly than how they are about 7 or 8 degrees apart from each other.
Yeah, it brings it closer. And go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to say, so there's an aspect here that can represent a challenge. Anytime that Mars and Saturn get into any type of aspect, whether it's a square, opposition, even trines or sextiles, there is some type of tension that happens, even with these two malefics. So I think this is interesting in that, as you're pointing out, Venus is about our desires, our affections, what we want, and Mars is helping us like reevaluate that as it's retrograding. But then Saturn's kind of coming in and saying, okay, I'm going to present a challenge here with you a little bit, or limitation, and you have to be a little disciplined. I mean, you got the trine there, but there's also these factors playing out that you have to really, it's not going to be all a bed of roses there.
No, it's hard work. It really is. I know vibrational astrology says that when you have Mars at once action, and you're right about the limitation, Saturn is saying, what is essential? Like less is much more, which I know Liz will testify to here. She's a good cap. Yeah.
And Venus is mediating and trying to assist. So yeah. I like that. And Mars is out of bounds. So Mars is going to really push.
wanting to really move. But it's a good recognition that Mars is retrograde and take a month. I mean, not quite a month here. It's going to go direct. So all this work will pan out. And isn't it something that right here, Uranus is also that other natural decan of the first 10 degrees of Aquarius is very shortly, day after this new moon, going to go direct.
Yeah. And I might notice for those who like to look at the sky that it has been kind of cool because Saturn and Venus have been conjunct. You can see them in the southern sky now. And so, because Venus is so bright, and so Venus is to the right, and Saturn's, of course, not as bright to the left of it, but it is prominent that these two are conjunct right now.
And Mars, even like here in our sky, I went up because they say 6, but you can't see Neptune and Uranus. But I could see Mars on the eastern side, and then going up there was Jupiter, and then over there was Saturn and Venus, yeah.
And Mars is next to Castor and Pollux, so it's been really a beautiful show in the sky.
Yeah, that's yes, yeah, definitely. It's been conjunct those actually it's interesting because it's in alignment with those two stars. I mean, you have Castor, Pollux, and then Mars. They're in the straight line.
See, what I love about that, and for folks, of course, reminding these are the twins that rule Gemini, but again, one is mortal, one's immortal, so it's always this exchange between spirit and mundane, you might say, which again is what this whole new moon is about in many ways, whether it's the star of the tarot or whether it's the Chandra, which means moon in Vedic. I'm learning these words here, which is, again, bridging those dynamics. So isn't that interesting that it's in the sky too with the stars? Of course it would be.
And you have to have a pretty high-powered telescope to see Uranus. So
yeah. Who was it that saw? Somebody was telling me they had a telescope. They were at a observatory and saw Saturn. Anyway, yes.
And you're supposed to be able to see Saturn's rings, even with the binoculars.
Yes, they did. I'll have to remember who was that. Okay, Now we're looking at the sun and moon aspects. There aren't really a lot, except there's a big conjunction, really, between, which is dynamic in itself. He's trying to get along, transformation, communicating with our daily business of being emotionally who we are, and thinking big things, working with more information or reviewing more information.
Yes, it's a lot about communication in the higher mind, I would say. And that sun and moon is trine to Jupiter in Gemini and square to Vesta in Scorpio.
Yeah, it's trying to say, what is our real altar? Is it giving us the truth of what we are, or how will we work it out?
And if you look at what's going on with the American system, this can mean, this, because Jupiter's going backwards, retrograding, there's an evaluation of communications in the collective, and so that trining Mercury and Pluto, I think we've got a whole chaotic reevaluation of communications right now in the collective, with Jupiter retrograding conjunct Pluto and Mercury and Aquarius there. And the new moon is almost asking us back to our Sabian symbols to evaluate and to look at what's ahead.
There really are questions as we're going into always, which we do on January 6th every year. Oh, it's not January 6th, but after the 21st, or the 20th, as it was this year, with the new leadership. And it brings in a new cabinet. But with that, and then other decrees, which leadership usually does, it signs papers and makes new decrees, but it is welcoming this entourage, you can say, of refocusing thinking.
And I would say that square, because we know Vesta is like the hearth, that we're all sitting around. I think that, and it's in Scorpio there, right? I mean, so yep. And it's squaring, so there's a lot of how you want to say, difficult emotions.
Yes. And is there betrayal? And is there all these negative shadow sides? Because we always have to look at both sides. But Pluto, there's a lot of enormous transformation. I'm thinking with Jupiter, though, it's bringing in more and more information, isn't it? So I'm hoping there's somebody with good Virgo here that can discern it. I don't see it immediately with the sky, but I'm sure there's work on that. That's what we do.
Well, and your wishes and dreams and desires that you put into action right now might take a little bit of time to manifest, because Jupiter is retrograde, but it's like, just put it out there, because when Jupiter goes direct, and you just kind of have, like, don't be attached to the timeline, because it's going to happen in its natural time.
Looking at what we're aware of, you could say, if it's an opposition, but action, really action. Squares bring in action. It's a friction point, but there's action. It could be within self and doing something. And here we do have Mars that activating double, like a signature T-square, with Chiron of our wounds, or healing alchemy, as I've written. And it's opposing the wisdom strategy represented by the Lady Pallas Athena, the asteroid, the daughter of Zeus, came out of his head, the wisdom part of life. So it's a very, it seems to me that's so internal, doesn't it? When you're working with your wounds and your strategy.
Well, and then Pallas Athena, has that female warrior, like Mars can be the male warrior. It's like, balancing the male and the female within us, and even in society.
Good.
And then there's another T-square with Uranus.
Yeah.
Uranus is opposite Juno and square to Ceres. So we have the asteroids. The asteroids involved in all of this. So it's pretty interesting. So change maybe to relationships, Juno, and then series of how we nurture those relationships, or do they need more nurturing? We might need to change how we're nurturing things.
It seems very synergetic. I only think about how we're working. If we look at that, it's an interesting diagram just visually. I'm not sure what that means, but it's so balanced in some ways, those two T-squares.
And I was going to point out back to the Sabian symbols where I was pointing out about relationships, where there's interplay and resolution of conflict. I see that here with the Uranus Juno opposition, because we know Juno represents marriage and relationships. And then, of course, the Mars in Cancer squaring Eris. That's conflict. That's you know, and that's a Gadanta. That's a point between fire and water, right? And so anytime there's any square between fire and water planets, you know, there's some type of healing of some energies there that need to be looked at and noticed and taken care of, you know.
Thinking of the sun and moon, which it is the new moon, and I was recognizing that it is kind of the midpoint. I mean, it's like 8 degrees from Pluto, but it's maybe 11 degrees from Ceres. It's close. Well, it's actually almost 10 degrees because it's so it really could, at the point being that with everything we've said, it elevates so that possibly in that fire of water, that this transformation and new life coming about and healing, that stepping back and keeping your heart in.
And I might also say, and I agree, and I might also say that back to the Nakshatra, this is asking us to seek our path forward. And this is for our own self. What is the outcome of all this evaluation and healing and dealing with the difficulty is what is the path forward? And I think that's what a lot of us are looking at right now. What is the path forward with this new year and new moon?
Because we do have choice, individual choice, of course. Here's what's flowing. I think this is our last chart in our last few minutes. And again, to let people know, this is January 29th, and this is an Eastern chart in Washington, D.C. It's 7 in the morning, 7:35, 44 a.m. to be exact. Right off immediately, the sun and moon are in a flow with Jupiter. So we're thinking big things and we're taking in more information. But how does that set up with the rest of the chart? There's so many interesting configurations, which we call in astrology, but they have constructive things. I mean, by things, resolution, I might say.
Well, yeah, because you have the mystic rectangle, which is trines and sextiles and two oppositions. So it's like a mix of working and flowing, but then, you know, what's the opposite opinion or idea, and like, how do you make that work? And if you can recognize that, then you can open the gift or receive the gift.
Yeah. So it's really letting go in some ways with relationships, because that's part of the involvement, and discerning. It's in Virgo. So you're able to discern. Thank you, Virgo. You're coming to the forefront, because there's no way Virgo's going to stop discerning what is and not, you know, figuring it out. But it's also perhaps releasing how we like you were saying, don't think of the outcome. Let the outcome come to you magnetically. There is that sense of attraction that spirit understands too.
One thing I would add is about, you know, you're talking about Virgo, and so there is for all of us throughout this whole year, there's a purging process going on, and it, you know, discerning, reevaluating and purging. Virgo needs to purge and clean, and that's what a lot of people are doing in some way in their life.
It feels better after it's done. Sometimes it's a little tricky to figure out how to recategorize things. I remember I was helping a friend doing a tremendous move. She says, "You're just moving around papers." And I thought, well, yeah, but it might depend if this is important or that's important. I really reflected on that for a while.
Well, you know, and that's what I love. It's the opposite of Pisces, which is that's the creative, imaginative opposition point that, you know, after you get done evaluating and purging, Pisces comes in and opens up new creative pathways to imagine what could be better after you've cleaned the wound out.
And having those kite points, which means you have a flow going with the three energies. And then there's another point that is kind of a resolution. One is Uranus, sudden stuff happening, immediate right now, innovative, and there's a plus side of it. And Juno is the other kite point with another setup, and that's our relationship. So it could be new relationships are coming in because it's all juxtaposed. Is that the way I say it, right?
Well, and I would say it's interesting because I've noticed in people's charts, there are a lot, I won't say a lot of people, but I've been noticing lately in charts where people are born with a Uranus opposite Chiron. And so Uranus, anytime it's opposite a planet, it's going to create change. It's there to be the agitator, and so with it being opposite Juno and Scorpio, which is dealing with jealousy and revenge, like we're seeing in our society right now, revenge in relationships, that's one of the things we're learning to clean right now is relationships.
It is amazing. Well, thank you, everybody. We have Talk Cosmos here, and you can go online and subscribe, and we thank you so much. And mostly I thank our wonderful team, Elizabeth Liz Muschett and Justin Crockett Elsie. I feel like we could all powwow somehow. Well, I hope that's okay to say powwow.
So what's your takeaway, Liz?
Breathe and dream big.
And know that our plans are working with a manifestation that our energy will pull together with life and each other. Thank you.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.